Alberta Primetime with Michael Higgins.
Welcome to Alberta Primetime. Ahead tonight, our politics panel on the Smith government's push to expand private health care. But first, countdown to an energy deal.
That is a work in process right now. I think we are getting close to a place, and when that gets done, we'll have some more clarity.
Clarity that could come Thursday when the Prime Minister is expected to be in Calgary for a formal announcement on a framework that would pave the way for another oil pipeline from Alberta to the BC coast. Joining us now, Ruhee Ismail-Teja, Vice President of Policy and External Affairs for the Calgary Chamber of Commerce. Ruhee, good to see you again. Thank you for joining us.
Good to be here.
All right, well, let's start on the anticipated agreement of an Alberta-Ottawa MOU. The Calgary Chamber has announced it will be hosting the PM for an event Thursday. What's the tie between the two? What can you tell us?
Well, we're hoping to see a new chapter for collaboration between Ottawa and Alberta. We know there's several shared priorities, and Prime Minister Carney has been talking about Canada being an energy superpower for quite some time. And part of what we have yet to see is a full-scale change that addresses a lot of the regulatory concerns and the lack of infrastructure that has prevented us from being able to get to our full potential as an energy superpower. So we're hoping that we will see progress and an announcement between the provincial and federal governments that addresses some of those key barriers, that talks about a pipeline to the West Coast, that talks about a CCUS project that helps reduce emissions even further, and some regulatory change, the clean emissions regulations, clean electricity regulations, as well as confirmation and full clarity that the emissions cap is in fact off the table.
It's safe to say, though, the agreement will factor into the PM's address to your membership, that it'll come up in the fireside chat with Deborah Yedlin.
I have no doubt that provincial-federal relations and the future of Canada and our energy sector will for sure be one of the things that will be discussed at our event on Thursday, and really eager to have the Prime Minister address the Calgary business community. It's been quite some time since we've had this level of federal presence in Calgary, and being able to see it followed up with some serious policy decisions that impact the trajectory of Canada's energy sector broadly, it would be quite significant.
And maybe on that point of policy decisions, who do you see carrying the weight of this MOU? Is it the Alberta government? Is it the federal government?
I think we've seen a Team Canada approach on a whole bunch of different files, and part of what will make this successful is a shared responsibility between the Alberta government and the federal government, and that there is compromise on both sides, and that there might be progress on industrial carbon pricing insofar as what the provincial government has previously done, and that it will take both parties as well as collaboration from industry to be able to actually execute on these pieces and move them forward.
Okay, the Calgary Chamber has representation in Ottawa at the moment, releasing a new report on advancing infrastructure projects, but not necessarily to the scope of multi-billion-dollar pipelines. So what are you pushing for?
Well, we've been very encouraged to see progress on some of the major infrastructure projects through the Major Projects Office, and are encouraged by many of the national interest projects that the federal government has indicated they'll prioritize. But at the same time, we know it's smaller, local, regional projects that will ultimately mean Canada's economic potential is achieved. And we have several regulatory barriers, we have competitiveness hurdles, we have challenges related to labor, all of which impede our ability to build several small things across the country. And those shouldn't need the Major Projects Office. That's not what it's designed to do. But for us to fully advance a Build Canada agenda, we need a framework that allows for projects of all nature to be able to be built. And so the report that we're tabling today, called Infrastructure in Waiting, is about how we move many of those projects to be infrastructure in action and have them fully executed on, so that regardless of whether there's a major project in the backyard of any province or any region, we have the ability to move forward on infrastructure that matters.
And how do you see that relating to the Alberta context, especially given the degree of focus on a pipeline?
Well, we're optimistic that many of our recommendations might be realized as early as Thursday, but we also know that there are several long-standing challenges that we've continued to face as a country, and so this report works to address some of those, ensuring that Canada has a competitive taxation framework, that our regulatory process broadly it can move forward, and not just for major projects like pipelines, but for those smaller regional projects. We talk about Indigenous participation in business, which has come a very long way in the last few years, but obviously a further ways to go at this point. And so what equity partnerships could look like and what the federal government's role specifically is in establishing those. And we talk a lot about trade enabling infrastructure as well. And so if we are going to build things and we do want to export to new markets beyond the US, what infrastructure we need to have in place. And the last piece we're focused on is about labor. And so if we have this Build Canada agenda, we know we already have a trades labor shortage. And so our capacity to build in this country is going to be limited by our labor supply. And so provide concrete recommendations to the federal government about how to address some of those barriers.
And one final one, given those recommendations, how big of a policy shift would you consider that to be, to represent for the federal government?
Well, we've seen a significant change in tone in the last year from the federal government. You know, policy change takes time, and so I think would be a significant shift from where we've been over the last 5-year horizon. But these recommendations would help follow the changing tone that we've seen from Ottawa with some real concrete action.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Appreciate your time this evening, Ruhee. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Ruhee Ismail-Teja is Vice President of Policy and External Affairs for the Calgary Chamber of Commerce.